Imagine a sound so loud, so raw, and so just, filled with this desperate, agonizing love that it travels across the entire cosmos and literally wakes up God.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, we are not speaking metaphorically here. This isn't, a poetic cry of the heart.
No, this is literal. The source material we have in front of us today, it claims that the Supreme Being was resting in the cosmic ocean, the ocean of milk, and he heard a specific shout from Earth and basically said, okay, that's it. I can't sleep through this. I have to go down there.
It is a staggering image to start a biography with. And that roar, that hunkar, as the texts call it, well, it belongs to the figure we are deep diving into today.
Sri Advaitacharya.
Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're unpacking the Sri Advaitacharya Jivanacharita, and this is a dense, incredibly detailed biographical account that covers, well, everything. Theology, history, and some, honestly, mind-bending interactions between this figure, Advaitacharya, and the golden avatar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It really is a fascinating text because it blends this really high philosophy with just intense personal drama. And our mission for this deep dive is to peel back the layers of who Advaitacharya actually is. Because on the surface, if you just glance at the history, he looks like a standard elder scholar, a teacher, a senior Brahmin in 15th century Bengal.
Right, like the wise old mentor archetype. You see him in the paintings with the white beard, sitting all calmly.
Exactly. But the source material, it reveals an identity that is, well, it's cosmic in scale. And more importantly, it shows us a relationship with the divine that completely flips our understanding of hierarchy on its head. We're going to see the master begging to be a servant and the servant trying to worship the master. It's a total reversal.
Well, let's not bury the lead. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off right away. Who is he? Because when I was reading through the notes on his identity, I had to do a double take.
It's heavy. According to the source, Advaitacharya is a combined incarnation. He is identified as Mahavishnu and Sadashiva.
Okay, let's pause right there, because those are two massive names in Vedic theology. Let's break that down. Mahavishnu first.
So Mahavishnu is described as the aspect of the divine that initiates creation. The texts say he lies down in the causal ocean and he breathes out, and every single time he exhales, millions of universes come out of his pores like bubbles.
And when he inhales,
they're all destroyed.
That is a scale of existence that just hurts my brain. So Advaitacharya is that entity.
Yes, but he is also Sadashiva. Now, most people know Shiva as the destroyer, in the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. But Sadashiva is a slightly more nuanced aspect. He represents the perfect devotee. He's the one who is constantly meditating on Vishnu.
So in this one person walking around a village in Bengal, you have the creator of all material universes and the cosmic destroyer, who also happens to be the greatest devotee.
Essentially, yes. Mahavishnu provides the material cause of creation, the actual stuff it's made of, and Shiva provides the efficient cause, the energy that makes it all work. And they're combined in this one person.
That is a lot of cosmic heavy lifting for one biography. And yet, his name is Advaitacharya. It sounds so humble. Let's unpack the name, because the text breaks it down pretty clearly, and I think it's crucial for you, the listener, to get this terminology down to understand its function.
It's pivotal.
Yeah.
So Advaita literally means non-dual. The source explains he is called this because he is non-different or identical in essence to Hari, to God. He isn't just a prophet or a representative or a really smart guy. He is that divine substance.
Okay, so that covers the God part of his identity. What about Acharya?
Acharya means one who teaches by example. And specifically here, he's the teacher of bhakti, or devotion. So his name basically summarizes his central paradox. He is God Advaita, but he plays the role of a teacher of devotion to God Acharya.
So he's the boss acting like the employee to show everyone else how the job is done.
That is a perfect way to put it, because who knows how to serve the master better than the master himself?
So we have this powerhouse figure, but context is everything. Why does he need to show up? Why does he need to roar? The source paints a pretty bleak picture of the world before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived.
Yeah.
We're talking of the onset of Kali Yuga, right?
Right. For those who might not know the timeline, Kali Yuga is described in these texts as the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. It's the spiritual winter. And the text describes a world that was essentially void of any genuine devotion. It says people were suffering in a material fire.
Meaning what? Just general unhappiness, or was it political unrest?
It's deeper than that. It means spiritual starvation. The text says people were obsessed with the temporary. There was plenty of ritual, sure. People were doing puja, ringing bells, spending money on lavish weddings for their idols, maybe trying to get good karma to get rich. But the heart, the actual connection to the divine, the love, it was missing. It was all dry.
So it was performative spirituality.
Exactly. And Advaitacharya, being compassion personified, he just couldn't stand it. He looked around and saw humanity suffering, not because they were poor or sick, because they had disconnected from their source. They were just burning up in anxiety.
So he decides to fix it. Now, usually when someone wants to fix the world, they, launch a political campaign, or they start a war, or write a manifesto. Advaita does something very, very specific. He goes to the banks of the Ganges.
He turns to the only solution he thinks will work: divine intervention. And this is where we get the hunkar we mentioned at the top. He worshipped Krishna using two very simple elements: Ganges water and Tulasi manjaris, which are the soft buds of the holy basil plant.
Why those two specifically? Was it like a budget issue?
No, it's a theological statement. He was showing that you don't need gold or jewels or elaborate silk to get God's attention. You just need the purest elements of nature and a sincere heart. The text says he offered these with a vow. He basically said, I will manifest Krishna here, or I will destroy the universe.
Whoa, that is an ultimatum.
It was an intense resolve, and he cried out. The text says he let out a loud roar of love, demanding that Krishna descend to save the people.
Demanding. That's a strong word to use when you're talking to the Supreme Lord. I mean, usually we think of prayer as, asking politely.
It is, but in this specific theology, love has the right to command the beloved. He wasn't just asking nicely, he was calling in a debt of love. He was saying, your children are suffering, get down here.
And this is where the causal link gets really interesting for me. The source is absolutely adamant about this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself in this narrative, he didn't just decide to show up on his own schedule. He came because Advaita called him.
That's the key takeaway of the entire biography. Later in the text, Mahaprabhu actually confirms this himself. He says, quote, I was sleeping in the ocean of milk, but Nada's roar woke me up.
Nada, that's his nickname for Advaita.
Yes. Nada means the loud sound, or the roar. It implies that the entire movement, this massive flood of spirituality that swept through India and eventually the world, was triggered by the intense, desperate desire of just one person.
It's empowering, in a way. It suggests that the divine is responsive. It's not just a one-way street. But moving along the timeline, once Mahaprabhu arrives, you'd think everything would be smooth sailing. Hey, you called, I'm here, mission accomplished. But their relationship is, well, let's say rocky.
Rocky is one word for it. Complex is another. It leads us to this fascinating theological paradox that the source really dwells on. You have Advaita, who we've established is Mahavishnu, so technically the elder, technically a form of God. And then you have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appears as a younger devotee, his junior by decades.
So socially, Advaita is the senior elder. I mean, he's old enough to be Mahaprabhu's grandfather.
Right. But spiritually, Advaita wants to be a servant. Advaita's entire mood is servitude. He believes that serving God is higher, sweeter, and more pleasurable than being God. He wants to taste the bliss of being a subordinate.
But Mahaprabhu knows who Advaita is.
Exactly. Mahaprabhu knows this is Mahavishnu. So Mahaprabhu treats Advaita with extreme reverence, bowing to him, touching his feet, treating him like a guru.
And Advaita hates it.
He finds it distressing. It ruins his mood. He wants the intimacy of a servant, not the distance of a revered elder. I mean, think about it. If you want to wrestle with your best friend, but your friend keeps bowing to you and calling you sir, you can't have that relationship. The reverence creates a wall.
So this leads to one of the most surprising and frankly kind of funny stories in the text, the beating incident. This one really stuck with me because it sounds like reverse psychology gone wild.
It is exactly that.
Yeah.
So Advaita is tired of being bowed to. He wants Mahaprabhu to treat him like a subordinate. So he comes up with this plan to force Mahaprabhu's hand. He goes to his home in Shantipura and starts teaching a philosophy that is completely contrary to Mahaprabhu's mission.
What was he teaching?
He started teaching Jnana Yoga and the Yoga Vasista. Essentially, he starts preaching the path of impersonal knowledge, that God is formless, that the goal is merging into the white light, that devotion is secondary or even illusory.
Which is practically heresy to Mahaprabhu, right? I mean, the whole reason Mahaprabhu came down was to teach bhakti personal devotion.
It's the antithesis of the mission. It's like opening a steakhouse at a vegan convention. Mahaprabhu hears about this, gets absolutely furious, travels to Shantipura, and literally drags Advaita off his seat and beats him.
He physically punishes him.
Yes, it's a shocking scene. The Lord punishing his elder. Everyone else is terrified. Nityananda Prabhu is laughing and everyone else is just scared. But what is Advaita doing?
He's dancing. The text says he's dancing for joy. He's exclaiming, "Look, today my desire is fulfilled."
Because by punishing him, Mahaprabhu was treating him as a subordinate. You don't punish your guru, you punish your student or your servant. The reverence was gone. The formal distance was shattered. Advaita manipulated the situation to get that intimacy, even if it meant getting a thrashing.
That is some extreme dedication to a role. Beat me so I know you love me. It sounds wild, but I guess in this context, correction is a sign of belonging.
Precisely. He valued the relationship over his own dignity or physical comfort. He proved that to him, God's anger was sweeter than the world's praise.
It really highlights that dynamic, the senior figure fighting to be the junior. But speaking of hierarchy and rules, there's a darker side to this text, specifically regarding offenses. We need to talk about Sachimata.
This is a crucial and honestly quite scary lesson in the text regarding Vaishnava aparadha, or offending a devotee. Sachimata is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother, effectively the mother of God in this narrative. You'd assume she has a free pass.
Right, like diplomatic immunity. She's the mom, she cooked his lunch, but apparently not.
Not at all. The conflict started years prior with Visvarupa, Mahaprabhu's older brother. He took sannyasa, he became a monk and left home very young. And Sachimata was heartbroken. She lost her son. And she blamed Advaitacharya because Visvarupa used to study at Advaita school.
She felt Advaita was corrupting the youth, telling them to leave their families.
Exactly. She saw him as a homewrecker. And in her grief, she made a pun, a bitter wordplay on his name. She said, he is not Advaita non-dual. He is Dvaita dual, or deceptive. She implied he was two-faced, splitting her family apart while pretending to be holy.
Ouch. Calling the teacher of non-duality deceptive, that's a deep cut.
It was. And even though it was said in grief, it was an offense against a great devotee. Later in the narrative, there is a scene where Mahaprabhu is revealing his divine form to his close associates, showing them he is Krishna. Everyone is seeing it.
Yeah.
But he refuses to let Sachimata see it.
Imagine that. Her own son, and when the devotees ask why, he explicitly cites this offense against Advaita.
He says she offended a Vaishnava. The lesson here is terrifyingly strict. Doesn't matter if you are the mother of the Lord, if you insult his devotee, you are cut off from the vision of the divine. The text is saying that God protects his devotees more fiercely than he protects himself. You can insult Krishna and maybe get away with it, but you cannot insult his friends.
So how did they resolve it? Because you can't leave mom out in the cold forever.
She had to physically apologize. She had to take the dust from Advaitacharya's feet.
Meaning she had to actually touch his feet.
Yes, an act of total submission. And beautifully, when she approached him, Advaita, who was at a trance, started singing her praises. He wasn't holding a grudge. He effectively forgave her before she could even fully ask. Only after she took the dust from his feet did Mahaprabhu allow her to see his divine form.
It really drives home the point that in this theology, the devotee is the gatekeeper. You can't bypass the devotee to get to God.
That's a very accurate way to put it. The devotee protection program is robust. And this radicalism, it extends to social structures too. We have to talk about Haridas Thakur.
The Shraddha plate incident. For our listeners, we need to set the scene here. This is 15th century India. The caste system isn't just a suggestion, it's the rigid law of the land.
Absolute law. You do not cross caste lines, especially regarding food, and specifically regarding ceremonial food.
And here comes Advaitacharya, the highest class Brahmin, causing a scene.
So the Shraddha ceremony is a solemn ritual for ancestors. Traditionally, the first plate of food, the highest honor, is given to the most elevated, pure-born Brahmin present. It's a status symbol. It proves you are the top dog religiously. Advaitacharya takes this plate, bypasses all the high caste priests who are waiting for it, and hands it to Haridas Thakur.
And for context, Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family.
Correct. By the strict Hindu social standards of that time, he was considered a mlecha, an outcast. He wasn't just low caste, he was outside the system entirely. He wasn't allowed in temples. Giving him that plate was a massive social taboo. It would be like a Victorian duke giving the seat of honor to a chimney sweep at a royal banquet. I mean, it was shocking.
But Advaita didn't just do it to be a rebel or an agitator. He had a specific logic, right?
He did. He stated that feeding Haridas was equivalent to feeding millions of Brahmins. He was establishing a new spiritual reality, that devotion transcends birth. A pure devotee, regardless of their background, is higher than a ritual priest who just happens to have the right last name. He used his immense social standing to smash that caste barrier.
Oh, he seems to be constantly slipping scripts. God-serving devotees, high caste bowing to outcasts. Even within his own family, he had this wheat versus chaff mentality.
Oh, the family dynamic is brutal. The source mentions his 6 sons, and it's brutally honest. It divides them into Saragrahi, those who seek the essence, and Saragrahi, those who carry the burden, or, the useless ones.
Imagine that family reunion. Here are my essence-seeking sons, and over there are the burden bearers.
It sounds harsh, but the distinction was purely based on their devotion to Mahaprabhu. Akutaranda is highlighted as the primary son because he was devoted from birth. The others, who questioned Mahaprabhu or had independent agendas, were sidelined. It just reinforces that lesson we keep seeing. Being the son of an avatar guarantees nothing. Nepotism doesn't work in the spiritual world. Only your personal attitude matters.
Speaking of attitude and standards, there's another story about money that I found really practical. The incident with Kamalarkanta. He was Advaita's servant.
Right. Kamalarkanta asked a local king, King Prataparudra, for money to pay off a debt. It seems innocent enough. Hey, king, can I borrow a few bucks? But Mahaprabhu found out and was livid.
Why? Was it because it was a lot of money?
No, it's a principle. Mahaprabhu felt that a spiritual person, or someone associated with a spiritual leader, should not be dependent on worldly kings. It compromises their integrity. I mean, if you take the king's money, you are beholden to the king. He scolded Kamalarkanta severely. He basically blacklisted him.
And this is where Advaita steps in again, not as the rebel, but as the comforter.
Yes. While the servant was crushed by the scolding, Advaita explained to him, look, he only scolds those he considers his own. He reframed the anger as a sign of intimacy. It's a recurring theme. Mahaprabhu's anger is actually a form of grace, a way of correcting and purifying his people. Advaita was the one who could interpret that for the others, keeping their faith intact.
So we've covered the philosophy, the social radicalism, and the family dynamics, but I want to get to the emotional core of the story, the Shantipura reunion. This happens right after a massive turning point in Mahaprabhu's life.
This is the emotional climax of the early narrative. This is right after Mahaprabhu takes sannyasa. He leaves his home, his wife, his mother. He shaves his beautiful hair and runs off in a trance, trying to get to Vrindavan to find Krishna.
But he doesn't know where he's going. He's in a state of divine madness, and Nityananda Prabhu, his other close associate, decides to play a trick on him.
It's a compassionate trick to keep him close a little longer. Nityananda leads him to the Ganges River but tells him, look, this is the Yamuna. The Yamuna is the river in Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu believes him because he's seeing through eyes of love, not geography.
So Mahaprabhu is ecstatic, thinking he's in the Holy Land. He takes a bath, and then, surprise, who shows up on a boat?
Advaitacharya, and he brings fresh clothes and dry garments. Mahaprabhu is confused. He asks, I'm in Vrindavan. Why are you here? You're supposed to be in Shantipura, miles away.
And Advaita drops that beautiful line.
He says, wherever you are, that is Vrindavan. And then he admits, technically you are at the Ganges. But the theological point is made. The holy place follows the Lord, not the other way around.
And then they go to Advaita's house in Shantipura. And this sounds like the Super Bowl of feasts.
It really is. The source describes Sita Thakurani, Advaita's wife, cooking an immense spread. Mountains of rice, vegetable dishes, sweets. But the emotional weight of this feast is heavy. It's not just a party. Advaita arranged for Sachimata to come there. It's the last time she gets to see her son before he leaves for Puri permanently.
It's so bittersweet. Advaitacharya creates this sanctuary in his home where, for a few days, everyone can pretend things are normal again. They can feed Mahaprabhu, see him, interact with him.
It shows Advaita's role as the shelter. He called God down to earth, yes, but he also provided the ground for the devotees to interact with him. He facilitated the pastimes. Without Advaita, there is no stage for this drama to unfold. He provides the house, the food, the logic, and the love. He essentially hosts the divine play.
The source also mentions how in later years, Advaita would go to Puri to visit Mahaprabhu for the Rath Yatra festivals. He wasn't just a passive figure who stayed home.
No, he was vibrant. He would dance in front of the chariots. And the text notes that even then, the dynamic held. He was the elder, the caller, but he danced in the mood of a servant, swept up in the movement he helped start. He never claimed ownership of the movement, even though he started it.
So if we pull back and look at the big picture here, we have this figure, Advaitacharya. He's Mahavishnu, he's Shiva. He creates the universe with a breath. But in this narrative, his crowning achievement isn't creating a galaxy, it's shouting loud enough to get Krishna's attention.
That is the essence. The source text, the Sri Advaitacharya Jivan Charitra, ultimately presents him as the bridge. He bridges the gap between the suffering world, the material fire, and the divine realm. He bridges the gap between the majesty of God and the humility of the servant.
And he teaches that even if you are powerful, even if you are technically divine, the sweetest position is that of the servant.
Precisely. He deconstructs his own ego, his own position as the Supreme Lord, just to taste the sweetness of devotion. It's a profound lesson in humility. If the creator of the universe wants to be a servant, what does that say about what our aspirations should be?
That is a powerful thought. It flips the whole "I want to be the boss" mentality on its head.
Completely. And it all goes back to that first point, the compassion. He didn't call Mahaprabhu for himself. He called him because he saw people suffering. His motivation was entirely selfless. He saw the fire of the material world and realized he couldn't put it out alone. He needed the big guns.
So what does this all mean for us listening to this today? We've covered a lot of dense history and theology. What's the takeaway?
I think the takeaway is the validity of the cry. Advaitacharya's life proves, at least within this tradition, that the universe is not indifferent, that a sincere, desperate call from the heart has the power to move the absolute truth. It validates the personal relationship between the seeker and the divine.
It's the idea that you don't need a complex ritual setup. You don't need to be a high caste priest. You don't need a PhD in theology. You just need a pot of Ganges water, a flower, and a really, really loud desire for change.
A desire that refuses to be ignored. That is the hunkar.
I love that, the hunkar. The roar that wakes up God.
It's a concept that stays with you.
It certainly does. As we wrap up this deep dive into the life of Sri Advaitacharya, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought to mull over. We talked about how Advaita's roar changed the course of spiritual history. It makes you wonder, in your own life or for the world around you, what is it that you care about deeply enough to let out a roar like that? What kind of intervention are you calling for? And do you have the conviction to believe that someone somewhere is listening and might just wake up to answer?
That is a provocative question.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through the Sri Advaitacharya Jivan Charitra. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Hare Krishna.